I'm going to talk about Proton's new SUV, the X70. The last time you heard about this from me, I was in China driving the Boyu. It was mostly a review of my face, if you remember. This time it's going to be even more of my face. I'm going to talk about 4 things. The name, the product itself, what we saw from Proton, the design, and the price. So the first thing, name. It's going to be called the X70. So there's 2 things about this name I want to bring up. First, it's Proton switching from their traditional naming scheme to alphanumeric naming scheme. When quizzed, Dr. Lee Chung-rong said he wanted people to see Proton first and not what the name of the SUV was. His words were a bit different, but I think I can interpret that he sees the future of Proton as Geely's biggest right-hand drive producer, I think. Every time you have an unknown brand and a limited budget, you want to put that budget into building awareness about the brand itself. He wants people outside of Malaysia to know about Proton as a brand. If you take your entire marketing budget and put it into pushing the brand Proton, that builds the awareness of Proton. Let's say a few people go to a Proton showroom and they see in the Proton showroom X70, X50, X30. They can immediately just say, okay, these are the SUVs. 30 is the smallest one, 70 is the biggest one. Done. You don't need to create awareness about the product itself. The brand awareness is already there. So I think alphanumeric in that sense makes sense. Second thing about the name, they chose X70. A few Malaysians won prizes because they voted for that and gave good reasons. I wrote an article on dsf.my early on saying why X70 was slightly less suitable, and I thought X700 was slightly more suitable, and my justification was product conflicts. I don't think there's any car company that uses a single alphabet and 3 numbers in a product name. So I thought maybe Proton, if they wanted to start in that sense, they would be the first ones to have that. Because X70, single alphabet, 2 digits, it's already been done by Infiniti. Infiniti is like a sister company to Nissan, more premium stuff. So they use Q and 2 digits, so Q70, Q60, and for their SUVs they use QX. So to me that created a little bit of a conflict in identity, but maybe the rest of the portfolio is different from Infiniti's. Infiniti's, when it is a crossover, that's QX, not just X. So maybe there's a chance that the sedans will be called P70 or something like that. There might be some wiggle room there. The disadvantage, of course, is that you lose a lot of heritage. I think the early Protons were all named, Saga, Wira, Iswara, Tiara. They're all Malay words. The whole purpose of it was to push a bit of awareness of Malaysian culture. It was a national car project because we wanted more people to know about Malaysian culture. It wasn't the greatest success story ever. I think Malaysians feel a lot of pride. I feel a lot of pride. It's a bit of a loss there, but I'm prepared to give Dr. Lee and his new plan a chance because it makes sense. Second thing I'm going to talk about, the product itself. I drove the Boyu equivalent in China. It's not exactly the same. Performance-wise, engine and gearbox, I think they left that alone. They didn't indicate that they changed tuning or any parts whatsoever. 1.8 turbo, 6-speed auto, same thing as the Boyu. But they did indicate that the ride and handling, the suspension setting, was tuned by Proton engineers to be more Proton-ish. They didn't say that they changed any parts, so I think whatever difference that is there might be quite minute. If maybe Proton can bring something to the table, maybe they'll make a sporty SUV. Because in the mass market, not everybody knows how to make a sporty SUV. I think the Mazda CX-5 is a very good example of how to make a sporty SUV. Yeah, we heard that they're going to bring in 2 variants, one front-wheel drive and one all-wheel drive. The question is how they're going to package it. There was a price list and spec listing that came out. Proton said it's fake. But if it's true, I think they're going to follow the CRV hierarchy, whereby you start with a 2-wheel drive at the cheapest, and then in the middle section you put in a 2-wheel drive and an all-wheel drive, and then at the most expensive you put it back to 2-wheel drive, but you bring in technology. It makes sense because Honda is the #1 non-national car maker in Malaysia. Honda is not going to give it up easily. But you know what, competition is good. Competition is good for Malaysian consumers. So let's see what happens. One more thing to say about the product. The car I drove in China was a full spec model. It had the voice assistant, it had the big sunroof. Most of that is coming to the Proton X70. Those things are just gimmicks. You'll use it a few times to show off, and then after that you're just gonna press buttons because buttons are accurate and consistent. Whereas voice commands, if you mess it up the first time, you might feel like a dingus. Thirdly, design. There's a lot of new elements. The first is the Eye of the Tiger daytime running light. Didn't look super different from the original Geely model. I really wish they had done something a bit more drastic, because daytime running lights are the easiest way you can inject personality into a car, because it is just nowadays just a thin layer of LED strip. You can do so many things with it, and I don't think it costs so much to manufacture and to test. So I hope Proton continues to push this Eye of the Tiger daytime running light in a way that leaves a bigger impression, because right now when I was looking at the car, it just looks like a basic daytime running light. No real personality. The next thing is the ethereal bow grille. I liked it a lot. It looks like it was part of the car to begin with. You also have the infinity weave pattern. So this is a motif that starts on the grille. You can see it inside as well. You see it on the speaker grille, you see it on a few other places. It's a unique pattern. They say it's Malaysian inspired, like coming from wood carvings and stuff. It's very subtle and it works, but I don't think you should look at the X70 as a final example of where Proton's design language is going, because of two things. They had major engineering constraints. They couldn't touch any of the metalwork and interior molding. In my Geely Boyu review, I talked about that squiggly line. It's a Chinese motif. They didn't remove that, so it's still there. It's also on the signal stocks. So while they did change it on the speaker grille, on other parts like the signal stock, and all that, it's still there. It is the premiere of this new design language. So Proton Wings is out, but don't look at it as the final product. I think you have to wait for more standalone models from Proton to finally see where they want to go with this. It's getting hot in here. The head of design, Mr. Azlan, also pointed out that the car sports a Malayan tiger silhouette, you know, the tiger pouncing kind of thing, shows strength and all that. He's not lying, is what I'm saying, because Peter Hobbery also in his demonstration to us showed that Geely cars have that cat family look, and I did a video on that. He's not lying that Proton cars may have Malayan tiger influence, but you know, it's still a cat family. Maybe it's an indication that Proton cars are just going to be slightly more stronger and muscular and aggressive looking than their Geely counterparts. It shows that they're not going to break apart in terms of design from Geely very much, not yet anyway, because they're still cats anyway. Tiger, leopard, whatever it is. So yeah, finally, price justification, and I'm going to turn on my engine because it's getting very hot. Okay, price justification. A lot of people in the comments are saying, oh, if it's above 100,000 ringgit, it's not gonna sell, or you know, it should be very cheap and you should be like 70,000. I'm telling you, you're wrong. The car feels expensive. If you want an indication of the build quality and the materials, some people are saying it's like, oh, a premium level European mark. No, it does not feel like an Audi inside. It doesn't feel like a Volvo or Mercedes. It doesn't feel like any of that. It feels more like a Volkswagen Tiguan. So if you want an idea of what it's going to feel like, construction and all that, go and sit inside a Volkswagen Tiguan, push things around, push the buttons. You will get pretty much there. You're wrong about the price being too high. I'm not even looking at the price of the car in China and all that, because you know, the tax structure is different. The first cars are going to be CBU, so it's going to be a bit more pricey. But I think it's justified because of what the product is, and the product is competitive. Before this, a lot of Proton cars were cheap. Preve is 50,000. For a C-segment car, you know, that is cheap. But in a lot of ways, you're getting what you pay for. You're getting a $50,000 C-segment sedan, but your expectation of a modern C-segment sedan, the benchmark should be a Mazda 3 or a Honda Civic. For $50,000 last time, you can say, yeah, fine, that's what you're getting out of it. This time, you're getting a world-class car. Design-wise, it's going to look as good or if not better than most of the SUVs out there. It's going to drive a lot faster and better than a lot of SUVs. Spec-wise, it's going to be competitive. It's going to have everything that the best mass market SUV sold in Malaysia is going to have. So think about that before you say, oh, the car should be less than 100,000. Maybe in the standard model, yeah, then maybe I think they might go to 95,000, maybe. But in the full spec model, I fully expect them to hit 125 to 130,000. If it goes a bit more than that, they might have difficulty, and here's why. If you go above 125,000, you are immediately giving your potential customers options. Above 125,000 ringgit, I can get a decent Mazda CX-5. And you might say, yeah, the Proton has more spec, better build, blah blah blah. But a Mazda CX-5 is a proven car with good resale value. It's got a good badge on it. It's a refined car, it's a world car. So I don't think Proton should give potential customers that option. Potential customers should see the Boyu and say, I'm getting the full spec at the price of a base model Mazda CX-5 or base model CR-V. That's the only way they can justify their pricing. But to me, the car feels like it's worth 95 to 130,000 ringgit. I hope you enjoyed looking at my face throughout this video. I don't have a lot of pictures of the car. Okay, that's it. I'm trying to get some interviews with key Proton staff members about after sales, design direction, product portfolio, and the difference in build quality post and pre-Geely ownership. If you have any questions you want me to ask them, please post them below. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. Bye.